Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about narcissistic mothers, and I wanted to do this because it seems to me the vast majority of information out there is really talking about more one type of narcissistic mother versus the other, and there are two main types. There's the engulfing type and the ignoring type, and the engulfing type is the one we think of as the classic narcissistic mother, the one that's overbearing, overly involved, overly controlling, overtly abusive, and very much the type of that fits the recording that I had, that the woman that was living here, her mother was that was definitely the engulfing type. But that mother will do a lot of things where they will handicap their daughter to keep her from doing things that are independent, that are age appropriate for her to do, like get a driver's license, earn her own income. I knew about this kind of abusive mother, obviously, but it wasn't the kind that I had. And so actually it took me a while to really even identify my mother as narcissistic. I knew something was wrong with her, but I didn't know exactly that that's what it was. Definitely something wrong with our attachment. And I didn't know as much about borderlines. I was thinking about maybe it was that or something, but no, she definitely is a narcissistic mother. It's just that she's the ignoring type of narcissistic mother. What this came off as for me was that I got a lot of very mixed signals growing up. And what I realized, looking back on it, is that there was really a very narrow box that I was able to fit into. Because I had to be acceptable. I had to make her proud. So I had to be successful, but not too successful, because she was competitive with me. And here's the interesting thing too, as I realized that I was in a really competitive family, but I wasn't competing. And so I realized that I had, like, my brother was competing with me too, and my mother was competing with me, but I wasn't competing with them at all. And so I realized that, looking back on it, that I didn't ever want to beat them at anything. And there were times when I was aware of this competition. I was aware, like, that my dad was possibly pitting us against each other, and I didn't like it at all. I wasn't comfortable with it at all, and it was no victory for me to feel like I had won anything over my mother, that I had won my dad's attention over her or anything like that. I was never wanting that, and so I felt like I was kind of put into these competitions. I didn't want to win. This at some point became a thing where I acted out and sabotaged myself, that I started purposefully undermining myself, just not be competing. But a lot more things that were not okay than were okay. For instance, I got the sense that my mother, it would be a disappointment for me to do anything really traditionally female. She didn't want me to be a nurse like her. She felt like she had basically done the best she could for the limited options that she had, given her socioeconomic status and given her generation, but that I could do better, I could do more, and she wanted me to do more. I mean, to do a very practical, what in her mind was a predictable thing, and wanted me to have a job that was a good job, and a job that would have been maybe prestigious for her time, but still not anything too risky, not anything too flashy, not anything that was going to bring me too much attention, and really didn't want me to have a lot of success. Wanted me to just be a little bit successful, is what it seemed like to me. So the narcissistic mother, whether or not she is the engulfing type or the ignoring type, those are just the outward manifestations. The goals are to control you to the degree that you're serving her needs, right? And so the engulfing mother's needs and the ignoring mother's needs are different. The engulfing mother seems to want to, they'll completely do just the opposite thing with their daughter. My mother didn't want me ever to need her. She resented the fact that I was ever a child that needed her to take care of me at all. The sooner I could be self-reliant, the better. I always knew that. Like, in fact, the catalyst that was nudging me to get married so fast to the sociopath that I married was that I had made this move to move back up to be near my parents, thinking that I knew them, and that's kind of a different. I'll have to go into that story about how that was, but I had a big gap in my memory, and so I had basically, I assumed these truths about my mom and dad because I was gone for like 7 years. I left for college and then came back like 7 years later. And in that time, I had seen them, for vacations, just like, it's like a long distance relationship I had with them. And so I was able to believe that my relationship with them was much healthier and normal than it was. It was like other relationships that I saw around me that I could count on my parents to give me the same things that my friends were counting on their parents to give them. And I quickly realized that wasn't the case at all. And so, but what I thought, well, okay, if I don't need them too much, if I don't really need them for anything, then they can enjoy being around me and we can just have a relationship that's just very casual and friendly and all that. And they will know that they're not obligated to do anything for me, right? I'll get my emotional needs met somewhere else. This was the promise that my husband made was, you can get your emotional needs met by me, and then, you can coexist with your family and you won't need anything from them and it'll be okay. So this was all unspoken, of course, but he understood that. He picked up on it. He was very, very savvy and picked up on it. And then, of course, over the course of time, he worked his way into a connection with them, and they all scapegoated me and pathologized me, and that my emotional needs were just above and beyond and this and that and the other thing. And then eventually all made up the story about how they were all going to discard me together, which took place right after my grandparents were no longer around. So that was the other interesting thing, was that my grandparents, definitely their presence, my grandmother's presence in our lives really had an effect on my parents' behavior. That as soon as my grandparents were gone, and they're elderly, they were well into their 80s, and my parents were in their 60s when they died, but their behavior changed. Their behavior, their family values, and their caring about their children and all that stuff just went out the window, and as did, their honoring my grandparents' wishes and all that stuff. And so that's when they made the decision to keep my inheritance from my grandmother, things that she was passing down to me. They kept it, and just did some really awful things like that, all that they could justify and that they felt entitled to do when they came up with a story that I had abandoned them. But that's the hardest thing, is realizing that all my life before I could think, well, my mom maybe has a hard time connecting with me, but she's a good person. She's an honest person. She's a hardworking person. She means well. She loves me in her own way. She's a kind and decent person. I don't believe that at all anymore. I don't believe they're kind, decent, honest. I don't believe they're any of those things. I believe they're really dangerous. That as lonely as this has seemed, you are not alone. And I see you. I feel you. And I also know that what you have endured already in your life, for however long you've been doing this, is more than most people ever even know about. And so you are really strong. Here's the thing on, recovery from really just about anything is you fix the wound, you have to stop the bleeding. And so you cannot be in a situation where you're continually being re-injured. I will tell you this also, that this, you've been, however old you are in your life, that you have sacrificed everything, you have tried everything, and nothing has worked, and nothing will ever work. You are probably still saying to yourself, oh, she doesn't quite know my mom, she's not that bad. If I get it just right, if I say it the right way, she'll be okay. She won't be. We all do that. We all give our mom the benefit of the doubt. We have for years and years. We think, they don't quite understand, our mom, she's not that bad. The fact of the matter is that we needed to believe that our mom wasn't that bad. We needed to believe that she loved us, and we don't need that anymore. Now what we need the truth. We need to heal ourselves. We need to be able to accept the fact that our mothers are mentally disabled. They're mentally ill. Most likely they've been, really involved in things that have sabotaged your life in many, many ways. You probably had inappropriate relationships with, like my mother and my ex-husband. Those relationships crossed boundaries that shouldn't have been crossed. just in terms of like, that was a relationship that was based on me. You know, it shouldn't have happened exclusively without me. You know what I mean? And it's just, and you know, her, in any relationships that she's gone on, like develop with my friends or anything, without exclusive of me, has not been for my benefit. Those have all been to undermine me. Think about it. If you're a mother yourself, who does that, right? As a mother, you know, that just is so counterintuitive. You know, as a mother, you want everything good for your kid. I wanted my kids to have everything in the world, that, you know, I wanted them to have ultimate happiness, ultimate success. It killed me to know that I had married someone that was sabotaging them in the same way. I have a whole other set of issues that I'm going to have to deal with, you know, because I've lost my son, and that's just a whole other complication. Because, you know, let's face it, that a lot of the ways that we heal our wounds with our parents is by being parents, with what we redo with our kids. And so I've got a real dilemma, you know, I've got a real heart, because I don't get to see that happen with my son, you know. And so that's really, really hard. But I have absolute faith in you, and it is not easy to recover from having a narcissistically abusive mother. It's really the most painful of all relationships. If you have a father that was narcissistically abusive, that's painful too, but it's not the same. If you have a spouse, a friend, of you not getting to have this primary bond with your mother, it has complicated every relationship that you've had, and complicated the way you've seen yourself. And really, people who are blessed with an unconditionally loving mother, even if they have nothing else going for them, are really in good shape, you know. And so we didn't get that. And so to have a mother, have your mother not be able to love you, and your mother cannot love you. Let's face this. You really have to accept that your mother cannot love you. It's something it's not about you. It is absolutely not about you. She could not love you well before she ever had any kids, so it had nothing to do with you. Something happened to her that she just could not do it. And so, you know, you have really done an amazing thing to have gotten this far, to have made it this far. And if you are loving your own kids, you know, geez, congratulations. That's just so great, you know. And a lot of us really are awesome mothers. And a lot of us are, because we really cared about it. And a lot of us are really good mothers, but also are good mothers that we had to put in work too, because we knew we couldn't go on just what we saw. We had to actually research and learn and learn how to be good mothers. I mean, we had the feeling, we had the innate love, but just the mechanics of, you know, of the day-to-day, you know, some of that stuff I had to learn, you know. As my kids grew up, I didn't have that. I didn't have someone I could turn to. And get this too, that if you are a mother, you know, you need to protect your kids from your mother, because she is not only just abusive to you, she is abusive to your kids too, or neglectful or whatever, and in some ways. And you know, in my case, how it was, and she would never be able to admit it, but in my case, how it was is that just that there was, you know, I was scapegoated, I was excluded, and it was just that they would have to justify what they were doing and gossip about me, and they would do all this around my kids, in front of my kids. So, you know, my kids never got to see my mother and my parents being loving towards me. You know, so what a terrible thing that is. It's a terrible thing. So, but all this is possible to heal from. And you know, you really kind of have to give yourself this time. You have focused so much energy on your mom. And you don't have to do that anymore. In fact, you can't do that anymore. You can't do that anymore and get well anyway. So now is your time. And I'm here to cheer you on, root you on, and I'm going to do it with you, because I realize that I'm not there yet. Even though I am 16 years estranged from my mother, having my son die this year and having these things that she's done this year still hurt me so much as they did. I realize I still have work to do. And so, you know, we can do it together. So you know, congratulations to you for having made it this far and for being the loving, compassionate, and lovely person that you are. And know that you're strong. Know that you are really strong. And if you've survived this, you can overcome just about anything. And so, thank you for watching my video. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet already, please subscribe. You guys, I'll talk with you later. Bye bye.